Hi, I'm Rosie and I make stuff. In this video I'm going to be making my 1910 sort of era combinations, which I talked about the creative process of planning in my last video, which I will link above if you are interested. But now I'm actually going to make it. Hooray! I've given the voile a good iron and tried to square it off because I am a terrible seamstress who is putting aesthetic above practicality. I really want the light grey bit to be on the bottom of the both trouser pieces. This leaves me flirting with danger. Not only am I going against the grain and the overall strength of the fabric, but I'm giving myself a very small amount of seam allowance on each side. I really want it. Oh, I'm gonna regret this so much. I'm really terrified to cut this out. I have had a cup of tea and a cheese sandwich, and I am feeling brave enough to mark this pattern piece out with chalk. I've weighted down my pattern with some handy pattern weights and objects from around the flat. The Necronomicon is there just to, you know, maybe I'll get on the good side of Cthulhu if he so wishes to partake of the fancy jams and mulled wine to speed this project on to success. Then I don't have anything to do with it. It was just stuff from around the house. No bargaining with monstrous demon gods. Just, you know, he likes a bit of jam on his tentacles every once in a while. With the chalk marks barely being visible even to my naked eye, I started using tailor's tacks as a way of marking it out, and also transferring the exact same markings onto the piece of fabric below, so that I have two perfect leg tubes things. Tailor's tacks consist of one long stitch and two short stitches, but I can't be arsed with that, so I do one long stitch and one short stitch because I don't know, it just looks pleasant to me. And I kept it all on the floor and tried to keep it neatly in place and move it as little as possible because this voile is a nightmare. I kind of hate it, but I also love it at the same time, which is paradoxical. But I guess that's sewing. You can just about see the thread marks on the second side, and then I can just pull apart gently the two pieces of fabric and very carefully cut the threads in between them. And I say very carefully because, yeah, it's so easy to just nip the fabric with your shears. I'm not saying I did that, but I might have. I did, yeah. But it was a bit that was going to get cut off anyway, so it doesn't matter. It's fine. It's just a very delicate process. I'm actually going to hand stitch all of this because I don't want the machine to put tension on this because it's very fine. Although I started backstitching, I decided halfway through, as you do, to actually do it properly, and this is the weird sort of whip stitch that is pointing towards yourself, which actually worked really well because I could hold it in my fingers and the tension on my fingers would keep it rolled up. So stitching this way is weird, but it makes so much sense when you're actually doing it, because I'm gripping it here with these two fingers and I can just roll it over. Very gently and hold it tension with my thumb. And then I can do the stitch. Obviously I just pull my needle off. But yeah, it's really good. And look at that. He's stitched on the bias, but there's barely any pulling. On this side there's a little bit of pulling, but no, it's beautiful. It's lovely. I like it. I like it very much. After finishing the edges, I pinned together the two inner side seams of the drawers. And then stitched them together by hand in a backstitch, which did not take forever. I mean, it took less time than the edges, but yeah, it took a fairly long time. But I was listening to Agatha Christie audiobooks at the time, so maybe that was appropriate. I'm now marking out my pin tucks. Mark the centre of each pin tuck, baste it so you can see it from both sides, iron it so that the basting was just on the very edge of the tuck, and then sew 3mm away from the edge. And I'm doing this in inches because there are 8 1/4-inch pin tucks, and that means that there is 2 inches of reduction in this section. I'm sewing up my first tuck in a backstitch, and I'm quite pleased, although it's not the most even, but I'm not a robot, so that's kind of to be expected. However, starting out nice and neat at the bottom, slight veer off at the top, so I'm going to have to unpick like 1/2 inch and do that bit again, because I'm pernickety. But yeah, overall, quite pleased. Didn't take too long. Would recommend. Finished my first set of pin tucks, and I am super happy. It looks absolutely just so pretty, and if I hold it up to the light you can see how thin this fabric is. So yeah, this is the front, and I'm gonna start on the back now so I can do a fitting for one side of it, which is actually why I've basted the crotch area so I can make sure it fits. Pin tucks, I've done my pin tucks. I don't know why I'm singing. Well, I do now. I'm like deliriously happy about these pin tucks. I ironed them and then gave them a press under some books so they are crisp. Now I need to do the other side. I've done something that might be weird, or it might be genius. Who knows? So I have spent today sewing this. Yeah. So this is a very thin waistband. Come on, focus again. Yeah, go. I've done this because, just put that here. This is my waist lace. Come on, focus, 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 focus. Focus. Anyway, this is my waist lace, and it is flimsy, very, very flimsy. And I wanted just to make it a little bit more robust. So I made this strip, which is just the same size. And then I have my 7mm ribbon, which is going to be tying my stuff together. That sounds bad. You know what I mean. So yeah, I wanted something a bit more robust for anchorage, seeing as both the bottom part and the top half are, well, gathered in some way. So this is a lot more stable. So yeah, that's come together quite nicely. I've just tacked the lace onto this backing, and this is my plan. So these are the trouser sections. That's not really a description. And this will be the waistband. But yeah, I'm kind of loving this. God damn, this silk ribbon is just divine. So I have sewn up the crotch. I was debating whether or not to do that, and I decided that I should, because otherwise it is extremely indecent. So yeah, and I've added the waistband, and I kind of added it where my natural waistline would sit, so it would hang properly. Like, this is like extra, because if I wasn't sewing up the crotch, this would overlap for modesty, but now it isn't. And I'm going to start on the top half now, which is exciting and terrifying. I've been messing around with my pattern, which is probably not the best thing to do when you are about to cut said pattern. So I've been looking at the original, and it has 1, 2, 3, 4 sets of 1/4 inch tucks. So finished measurement is 4 inches smaller than the cut measurement. So I did some mathematics. 9.5 inches is my measurement where I want the shoulder straps to be. Then add 4 inches each side, 17.5. I'm going to cut this as one piece, hence the fold mark. Forgot totally I needed 2 straps, and yeah, this is an approximation of what's happening. I've already changed these. So that's now 9 inches, and that is, I can't remember. Here's the fold. 9 inches. Oh yeah, 9.5. Another 9 inches, and that's going to be my whole front, back, top situation.
Here I'm just marking out the curve between the straps and the centre back.
Well, this was an absolute nightmare. So using my original measurements that I did on the bottom parts, I did it on the top part, and hey, guess what? It doesn't fit. So I had to shimmy my measurements down, and that's a group of 4. that's group 4, that's group 4, and that's group 3 because I'm too lazy to do the last one. I'm making a bold decision right now with the pin tucks on the back as a sleeve. I'm going to rip them out because they're just not nice. I really don't like it. I think it's going to look crap, and I'm going to take it all out and do it again. I took apart my pin tucks and I did them again, and I am much happier with the result. This is a lot nicer. I also did the sleeves, just a little rolled hem there, and put on the lacy bits, so that's quite pretty. We're just gonna totally ignore the distance there is not the distance there. Let's just completely ignore that. So I'm gonna give this a bit of an iron. These were the last ones I did, so they're not ironed yet. Then I'm gonna put something heavy on them so that they stay nice and flat, and I'm gonna work on the front. I stitched a rolled hem along the bottom of the top section, as this will get gathered up and eventually attached to the waistband. I run a gathering thread through the top, just above the rolled hem, and attached it to the waistband. Not sure what to do next. Either the button plackets or the pin tucks down here. I think the pin tucks would be easier, but the button placket needs to be done. So it's button placket time. These are the strips of fabric which I cut off the front, so they match up in sort of similar colour. I double them because I want them to be quite thick, and I want them to support the buttons. I'm just stitching a line here, which is going to be sort of a very rough French seam. Just cutting off the excess. Have a nice smooth edge at the top. And to keep the structure, I folded in the whole of the excess fabric and gave it a good iron. I've folded and pressed my two button plackets, but now
I'm thinking I might have too many layers of fabric. So I just pop that in there. Will that be too heavy? Are they too chunky? Not sure. I'm gonna keep them pinned on while I'm doing other stuff, namely all this pin tuck jazz, and I'll think about it. I don't have to commit quite yet. Oh my god, where's the front? Yep. There's so many pins in this thing that it gets kind of stuck on itself. It's a disaster. Now I'm going to do the pin tucks. Hopefully the last pin tucks. My love of pin tucks is sated. I do not need any more.
After marking pin tucks again and again and again, I think this might be like the third or fourth time that I marked out pin tucks, I settled on the measurements of the pin tucks for the front. And started. I found it's actually better to start at this side, the way I'm doing it now, because when you do the second pin tuck, it's right next to it and you can straighten them up and align them, and it's better in every single way. And now I can attach my button plackets. I left them being chunky. I think it's fine. I could then sew on my teeny weeny little shell buttons. In retrospect, they are a tiny bit too small. They are actually 8mm. But I double checked the website and that was the only size they had in that colour, and the colour is perfect. So I just used those ones and I'm not too disappointed. I mean, they're supposed to be delicate and small, so they do look very pretty. I now have to face the monster that is all the lace on the top, and I was a little bit terrified. So I decided to do something else. I faffed about with my gathers on the waistline for a very long time, trying to make sure that they look pretty. And then I sewed them into place onto the waistband, which I was very thankful that I did. After all, it needed something solid to attach to. And now I can finally attach the lace to the bottom, which I've been looking forward to. After spending quite a long time deciding where the placement was in relation to my knees, I whip stitched around the top edge of the lace. After that, I could neatly trim the edge of the fabric around the lace and whip stitch on the inside.
It turned out sewing these on was a lot less fun than I expected. I thought sewing lace on would be like, yay, hooray, pretty things are happening, but no, it was a slog. It's done now, and I've done inside is terribly whip stitch, it turns out using a lace with a very bobbly edge means it's a nightmare for turning corners and such like. So, but it is very, very pretty. I've done the other leg. I have 2 legs. And I've done the top. Okay, I've done most of the top. This was even more of a nightmare because I had to go around the pin tucks. Although one thing I do like is the bumps kind of corresponded to where the pin tucks are, so it kind of held them together, which is a bit nice. But generally shaping around a curved area is not fun. I shouldn't show you this is awful. I haven't pressed it either because this lace will melt if it even looks at an iron. See, I haven't finished there. So keep folding over because this frays quite significantly, so it needs to be dealt with very carefully. And I need to finish off the front. I have, however, got some thread to do buttonholes, because it's been really annoying me that I can't try it on properly because I don't have any thread for buttonholes. I got this pack and it's kind of like a teal pack. It turned out a lot more green than I was expecting, but I think that one will work. It's the most blue of them. Yeah, that'll do. This project has really tired me out. I don't know why I decided to do hand stitching. That was just a terrible idea.
And now it's time to add the buttonholes, and I will finally be able to button up these plackets. I won't bore you with the method of doing these by hand, and I'm not an expert. I don't even have a sewing machine that has a buttonhole function, so hand-done buttonholes are unfortunately a required skill. The thread colour is a little bit light, but it does what it needs to. It doesn't detract too much when it's buttoned up.
I'm making bows, and why is it when you need 2 bows that are the same, you get one that's perfect and one that's utter crap?
After resolving my bow-related mental drama, I had 2 bows which were pretty much okay. So I then sewed them onto the cuffs of each leg. I then made a bigger bow using the 32mm ribbon and attached it to the top of the button placket. I was then finished, which is weird. Hooray! You've reached the end of the video, and if you have, then you get a treat, which is me being full-on weird. I'm pretty sure only my husband actually gets to these points in the video, so it's fine. This is fine. I hope you enjoyed this video, and please like and subscribe if this is interesting to you, and I will see you in my next video. Bye for now.